You're watching Sun TV, broadcasting to the world from studios in Providenciales, in the beautiful by nature Turks and Caicos Islands. Sun TV, your source for real news as it happens.
I'm Tadleen Dafferlin, and thanks for watching this edition of Sun TV News. As the Turks and Caicos Islands continues to debate the controversial issue of a payroll tax, and with the value-added tax still not officially off the table, Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Christie, said his country is also dealing with the same two taxing issues. Mr. Christie, who met with Governor Peter Buckingham and Premier Dr. Rufus Ewing while he was in the Turks and Caicos Islands last week, told a press conference that was attended by Premier Ewing that the Bahamian private sector prefer a payroll tax. However, he stressed that both the PLP and FNM governments were advised that that was the best way to effectively run the country.
Well, first of all, the advices that we have for many years, and both governments were affected by this, had decided that we're going to have a value-added tax. We thought that it would more effectively put us in a position to more effectively govern the country. Now, the private sector has made a significant pushback, and they've argued that we should implement, if anything, a payroll tax. And I'm sure that they see that the government would be the biggest contributor to that because we have the largest amount of employees in the government. What I've done is I've indicated to the Ministry of Finance, and I'm the Minister of Finance, I have the Minister of State here with me. I've indicated to the Ministry of Finance that let us give the private sector an opportunity to hire a consultant, which they have, give them a reasonable period of time to report, and I've given them a good faith assurance that we will review their report and look at their report to see whether their report would convince us that the payroll tax is the way to go. That process is now very near completion, and so it is for us to carry out my expressions of good faith and to seriously look at their report, to seriously see what in fact has happened. We have reports from the Crown agents, we have reports from the Inter-American Development Bank, we have reports from the International Monetary Fund, all arguing in favor of a value-added tax. And so the position is, the best advice I have gotten to date is that we introduce a value-added tax. The Ministry of Finance has indicated it was going to be at 15%. I have indicated that I will not put 15% to my colleagues. That is the current position as it is.
Mr. Christie said that the Bahamas, which has around 30 inhabited islands, is constantly faced with the need to raise additional revenue because it is a chain of islands just like the Turks and Caicos Islands.
The point is, we have in the Bahamas, as you have here, we're constantly faced with the need for additional revenue. And you know, the fact of the matter is, in the Bahamas, like you, we are a chain of islands, and I always argue that when a Prime Minister of Barbados or St. Lucia asks for an airport or a port, we have to ask for 26 of such things. And that the requirement to duplicate infrastructure in different islands is a formidable requirement. And so, you know, whereas the Prime Minister of Grenada would look to one island, you have to look to whatever you have here in terms of your responsibilities. And so there's always this need for additional revenue. And our job is to convince people of that and hope that the opposition you know, given their own commitments to being an alternative, would at some stage or the other respond positively, or if not positively, responsibly to the position.
The 70-year-old Prime Minister also told reporters that the Bahamas is very concerned about the impact which illegal immigration continues to have on the country, and he has been meeting with Haitian President Michel Martelly to seriously tackle the problem. Mr. Christie said the Turks and Caicos Islands can also benefit from those discussions.
The Premier is aware that my government has just made a decision to spend $200 million in buying new boats to traverse our waters and building new harbors to give us a greater strategic reach around the Bahamas, because we share the same. I've been advised of the radar and the success of the radar you have here in the Turks, that are able to detect boats coming in, because we have this concern that whatever the position is with respect to our country and how we receive immigrants into our country, and how in our territories there are people who have come to live and have become citizens and productive citizens, we have a concern about being able to ensure that we are able to control or minimize the impact of illegal migration. And I've indicated to both the governor and the premier that as a result of an intervention that I made when we last met, and the premier was there in St. Vincent, I made an intervention with respect to our concerns about the illegal migrants, and the president of Haiti has asked for bilateral meetings, and we've commenced those meetings between the Bahamas and Haiti with a view to seeing how we can work together, strategize together. And I've indicated the possibility of the premier and the governor, who has external responsibilities, giving consideration to joining those talks so that their concerns could be placed on the table as well.
Last summer, Bahamian Foreign Minister Fred Mitchell led a CARICOM mission to the Turks and Caicos Islands, and a report was sent to the British government, who has not yet responded. Mr. Christie was asked to comment on the lack of response from the British, and here's what he had to say.
What we have done is we have indicated at every available opportunity our support for the people of the Turks and Caicos to be able to define themselves and to be able to represent themselves in the context of the democracy that you have here. We have always followed the lead. You have a premier now who is very outspoken in circles of CARICOM. He's very, very forceful in his positions, and the Bahamas will follow those positions that he has adopted. And so we think the British government has heard us, but it is a question for the British government in terms of their approach, and we have to recognize that, and we will continue to give the government of the Turks whatever support it needs towards ensuring that the people here have, in fact, what you want. And so his challenge will be, of course, to ensure that whatever he does is compatible with the best interests and aspirations of the people that he represents.
Mr. Christie, who was Prime Minister of the Bahamas between 2002 and 2007 and was elected again in May 2012, also took the opportunity to speak highly about the strong relationship between the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. He also spoke of the need to empower nationals by having them own assets of the country.
The most important point that I could make is that we have a very strong relationship with the government. The Premier and myself, we attend conferences together, and we have a way of teasing each other. He speaks to the Bahamas as the northern Turks, and I always say that when I'm traveling to the southern Bahamas, I may end up in the Turks. We have that way just to show that historically we've had a very long and enriching relationship, and as you would be aware, a substantial number of Turks Islanders live in the Bahamas as Bahamian citizens. And so therefore that speaks for itself. Countries like ours that are small and characterized as vulnerable, we must look to each other to see how we can share the challenges that we have, both in terms of ideas, and we have to attempt to take advantage of who we are, where we are, our proximity to the United States of America, to see how we can make the tourism industry a dynamic industry in terms of employing people in our country, how we can integrate our nationals into the economy by having them own parts of the assets of our country, and how then do we share experiences in terms of protecting the country.
Well, that's our Sun TV News Brief for today. Join us again tomorrow when we bring you real news as it happens directly to your computer, mobile device, or smartphone. If you know anyone living overseas who would like to keep up with what is happening in the Turks and Caicos Islands, get them to email us at sun@suntci.com so we can add them to our mailing list to get Sun TV News. Thanks for watching. I'm Toddleen Defferlin.